Alright, it's recording now on here.
Right. Look at you. And it's still 4:59. What a legend. All right.
I am a legend, guys. If you're listening to this, I want you to give a heart to Tyler. I smell like a dog right now, so sorry, Tyler.
Good.
I wish I could say something that was classy and inspirational, but it just wouldn't be our style. Yeah, I like to hear it. SportsTownChicago.com. Part of the Beyond Air Network and available on the
What's up, guys? I don't know if you could even see me if you're on YouTube, but we are trying to have a great show today. Here's Tyler.
Now, here's your SportsTownChicago.com.
I'm Tyler Farringle with your Sportstown Chicago update. After a big loss last night against the Milwaukee Bucks, the Bulls have the night off and are back in action tomorrow. They travel to Smoothie King Center in New Orleans as they take on the Pelicans. Don't miss the opening tip-off that starts at 7 o'clock p.m. on NBC Sports Chicago. Blackhawks take the ice once more tonight as they are also on the road facing off against the Anaheim Ducks. Losers of the last 3 in a row, they'll move forward after trading veteran goalie Marc-Andre Fleury to the Wild. Opening face-off begins at 9 o'clock p.m. The Bears on Wednesday announced the signing of offensive lineman Dakota Dozier. The 30-year-old has appeared in 76 games with 27 starts across 7 seasons. He spent time with the Jets and Vikings in his career. Dozier joins Lucas Patrick as the offensive lineman signed by the Bears this offseason, a key area that has been heavily called to be looked at and potentially overhauled by new GM Ryan Poles. The NFL stands for National Football League, sure, but it also has been given the nickname Not For Long. Last week, the Raiders made Davante Adams the highest paid receiver ever after landing him from the Packers, giving him a yearly salary of $28 million, only for that to be broken today. In a shocking move, the Chiefs traded star receiver Tyreek Hill to the Dolphins in exchange for 5 draft picks. Immediately after the trade was announced, the Dolphins gave Hill a 4-year deal worth up to $120 million, averaging $30 million per year. Hill now joins Dolphins head coach Mike McDaniel, third-year quarterback Tua Tagovailoa, and a receiving corps also consisting of second-year man Jalen Waddle and longtime Dolphins receiver Devontae Parker. Miami looks to catch up in the AFC East and try to make a playoff push by landing a playmaking receiver who has torched defenses with his deadly speed. This has been your Sportstown Chicago update. I'm Tyler Farringle. My bad. And welcome in, everybody. Thank you guys so much for tuning in once more. I'm your host, Tyler Farringle. I'm joined by my co-host, Tyler Clausen. If you guys have missed us the last few weeks, it's the Winner's Circle. We are back. We are so thankful that we are able to do this here at Illinois Media School here in Lombard. It's a rainy spring afternoon here at Illinois Media School, but we are back. There has been so much news that has happened in the sports world the last few weeks, and me and TC are so thrilled to be able to break it down for you guys. TC, how's it going, man? It feels great to be back in here.
It is going great. If you guys have been paying attention to what's been going on our social media, our Instagram, _winnercircle_22, you know we've made a Twitch. Yes, we have made the transition. We are no longer just streaming in the TuneIn app or on SportstownChicago.com. We are on YouTube, we are on Twitch, and we are here as well. So if you know someone who's having trouble getting on, listening to a show, send them to our Twitch. They can listen live, and they'll be able to see our beautiful faces as well.
Oh, absolutely. I know everybody will love that, but we got a loaded show for you guys today. NFL free agency is in full swing. MLB is back. Free agents have gone crazy. There's been a ton of signings in the last week or so. The Bulls are still slumping. We'll talk about how maybe they can regroup and what we should look forward to entering April, the playoff stretch. And then March Madness, about halfway into the tournament. The Sweet 16 starts tomorrow. We'll give you guys a lowdown of who we expect to win and who we might see heading to, I believe it is, New Orleans for the Final Four. But let's get underway with some NFL free agency news. There is so much to keep on. We can't give you guys every single bit of news because there has just been so much. I think, me personally, this is the craziest offseason ever. I think anybody else could say the same thing as well. But me and TC were talking about it beforehand, and since it's been such a crazy offseason, since we can't touch on every single bit of news, we want to give you guys our winners and losers of free agency. I guess more so call it the best signing by us and the worst signing by us. Maybe which teams got the most better or maybe got worse overall, or which singular moves are going to solely define the 2022 NFL season. I guess we'll start off on a high note this episode. I'll give my best signing of free agency so far. This is a really tough one. I'm going to be pretty honest with you. It's going to be in the AFC West. No, it's not the Broncos landing Russell Wilson. No, it's not the Chargers landing Khalil Mack or J.C. Jackson. I'm going to go with the Las Vegas Raiders. And no, it's not with Chandler Jones. I say it's Davante Adams because let's put it this way, TC. Derek Carr has been a pretty, I'd say, evenly strength quarterback when it comes to getting the job done. He did it partially last year with Hunter Renfrow as his number one receiver. Great target, but he's not a number one whatsoever. He's got his old college teammate, Davante Adams, coming back, making this one of the more deadly quarterback-receiver duos in a stacked AFC West. Like, it looked for a while like the Raiders were the weak link in that division. I don't think they're the weakest link anymore, I'll be quite honest with you, after this signing.
Yeah, for real. And I have to agree with you, especially with what the Chiefs are going through right now.
Oh, absolutely.
It is so great to see what is going on with the Raiders. And the reason why...
I keep saying Oakland all the time.
I know. I keep wanting... It just messes up in my head every time I say it. But with the Raiders, I was always a fan of Derek Carr, and I'm really glad that he's just going to be able to get that opportunity, really, because I feel like he's had a lot of years in the league, and a lot of people talk about how he's had weapons, he had Michael Crabtree, all this stuff, but at the end of the day, he hasn't had a true offense that's styled around him and really the quarterback position overall. It's always been a pretty moderate offense, but now with all these weapons that you see at receiver, you can kind of envision the Raiders getting back into getting into the modern football arena where it's a pass-happy league and you pick up big chunks of yardage on a few plays, and you see something in that like that divisional round against the Chiefs and the Bills where teams can score twice in 30 seconds. So it's very exciting, very electric, and I think it's going to go well.
I think people also forget to mention they also have Darren Waller, one of the more electric tight ends, easily top 5, probably number 3 in terms of the best tight ends in the league. But for sure, I think the Raiders are going to be a force in the AFC West for sure. Maybe not compete for the number 1 seed, but just imagine what this tandem can do again like they did at Fresno State. That was a lethal duo. Their defense got better. And I just want to mention one more thing before we jump into one of TC's best signings. We have to also remember that Josh McDaniels is now the head coach of the Raiders. This guy has been a huge part of the Patriots' offense success the last decade or so. A huge reason why Tom Brady made a big resurgence in the mid-2010s, in his upper 30s. This guy knows what he's doing on offense. This isn't his first stint as a head coach. He messed up with the Broncos before, but he's not about to mess up again. And he's got his fellow Patriots buddy Dave Ziegler as the general manager. Those two know what they're doing. I think it's a great pairing. Josh McDaniels, Derek Carr, Davante Adams on the Raiders. TC, what's maybe your best signing right now?
My best signing isn't even about the actual signing, actually. It's more about the character of the free agent or the player that got traded. And it is Matt Ryan being traded away to the Indianapolis Colts. Now, I know you're probably thinking, what is he talking about? For me, if I'm looking at it as a person on the sidelines, right? Well, at the couch, I'm not even able to get on the sidelines, but, on the couch, I'm thinking, why would he go to Indianapolis? Because to me, I don't see them competing for a good deep playoff run, let alone a Super Bowl. So I really don't see what Matt Ryan was trying to get out of this. But if I'm thinking about how loyal he's been to the Atlanta organization, my thought process is he's going to give them the ability to start this rebuild that they definitely need. So for me, that's my favorite just because it seems like it enhances that relationship that we all know Matt Ryan and the Atlanta Falcons have.
Well, he's no question the best quarterback the Atlanta Falcons have ever seen, maybe the best Falcons player ever. I think that's a toss-up between him and Julio Jones, who've been together for so long. And I keep hearing potential rumblings about Julio Jones potentially reuniting with Matt Ryan in Indianapolis. We'll see if that happens, but I completely hear you. And a few weeks ago, the NFC South was completely up for grabs. You know, we had Tom Brady retired. Nobody really knew who the strong team in that division was. Now that Tom Brady is back, it feels like the division is back in the Buccaneers' hands. It kind of gives the Falcons an edge in your way of what you're saying to kind of, like you said, rebuilding this year. I keep hearing the term punt. They're punting away this year, that's for sure. You know, they signed Marcus Mariota like 2 hours after they traded Matt Ryan. That was the huge quarterback plan. Like, good job, Falcons. But no, I completely hear you. Biggest cap hit, though, for the Falcons in NFL history in a single player. $40 million they're going to have to eat away in dead money. Like, that's just crazy. $40 million? Like, I got to say, that's crazy for now. I hope there's a certain team and a certain player who could break that record in the future years, if you know what I mean, TC. Could you take any guesses?
I have no idea. There's so many guys that I feel.
Oh, come on. One guess.
Is he number 12?
Yes.
Does he look devilishly handsome?
I don't know who you're alluding to, but...
Tom Brady?
No, it's not Tom Brady.
Oh,
it's
you're
Aaron
talking about
Rodgers.
the guy with 9 toes or whatever?
Yes, I'm talking about the guy who's getting paid $50 million. It's going to come back to bite them, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, but... Tell me your least favorite move.
Well, I kind of want to, it's kind of a good transition from the Matt Ryan signing. It's like Matt Ryan is in Indianapolis. He's the new number 2 in Indianapolis. The old number 2 is out, and that's where I think the worst free agent signing so far has been Carson Wentz going to the Commanders. I've kind of been tossing around with a few ideas. The Mariota, the Falcons one was kind of confusing me too, but this one was just head-scratching. Like, this trade happened before the legal tampering period started, and there were so many reports coming out about Washington's doing everything to trade for a quarterback. Washington wants a big-name guy at quarterback. You know, there was a rumor that the Commanders called the Chiefs about Patrick Mahomes' availability. That's like, okay, it's not realistic, but they're serious. And then they go out and trade for Carson Wentz, like a week before the legal tampering period starts. Like, wow, that's... blah, if you ask me. Like, the NFC East got worse this year. The Cowboys are the best team in that division, and they got worse. Washington, to try and amp their already pretty solid roster, goes and gets Carson Wentz? I'm sorry, he already tore one ACL. FedEx Field has had a bad history of, destroying quarterbacks' legs. He should not feel safe playing on that field because his ACL might go bye-bye like Alex Smith's and Joe Theismann's did. And I think Ryan Fitzpatrick got hurt in the field too. But from a football standpoint, Carson Wentz is not the number 2 overall pick that we all thought he was in 2016. I don't like it at all.
Are you forgetting about another Washington Commanders player that destroyed his knees?
RG3. I almost forgot about it.
You technically did until I reminded you about it.
It kind of sparked me like just at that moment, but
yeah, I mean it always does. There's so many that it's hard to keep track in Washington. But the fact of the matter is I completely agree. I don't think that Carson Wentz is necessarily a bad quarterback. I don't think he's great. I think he'd be a decent number 2 or, a team that's desperate for a quarterback, not a team that's searching for a deep playoff run with their current roster. Like, they were a few games away from making the playoffs last year. They should be looking to make at least a divisional, perhaps maybe an NFC title game run. And with Carson Wentz, you might get a wild card win if you're lucky. If you get to the wild card.
Yeah, I'll only agree with you just in that slice because the NFC is a lot less, there's a lot more teams that are capable of making the playoffs in the AFC than the NFC. So I'll give them that chance that they could potentially sneak a wild card win in. But that all depends on if Carson Wentz is healthy. He's got a good number 1 receiver in Terry McLaurin, so it's just about putting the right pieces together and figuring it out.
The right pieces together, the wind's got to blow the right way,
yeah.
He's got to have his lucky rabbit's foot, the whole 9 yards in order to go out there and consistently be able to get you there. But, we talked a lot about him. Let's talk about my least favorite move of this offseason, and that's definitely got to be Deshaun Watson
coming in
to the
hot.
Browns. Oh, yes. I mean, if you guys listened a few weeks ago, you knew Deshaun Watson going to the Browns was something I said would not happen. Why? Because this is a young man who has a quote-unquote second chance here to go out and make something of himself. And I understand that he got guaranteed his full contract on the Browns, or from the Browns, but the fact of the matter is Cleveland is where a quarterback goes to die. Baker Mayfield had so much hype coming out of college, and now you struggle to even look at him as the Browns quarterback. You're like, God, are they still rolling with this guy? So it's just never been a good tenure. And I know, back in the day they were a little bit better than they are now, but ever since they've come back to the NFL, it's been a quarterback graveyard.
Well, and that's the other thing, too, I want to lead back to the signing. Baker Mayfield's probably the best Browns quarterback that they've had in their the last little bit. That's not saying much. They made that solid playoff run last year, but it had, like TC's point, it hasn't been pretty. I appreciate the swagger, I appreciate the intensity that he brings, but he's not exactly that adult the Browns have alluded to at wanting to quarterback. And my biggest thing with the Deshaun Watson thing is you're paying him a whole $230 million contract over 5 years. All of it's guaranteed when, yes, he's only 26 years old, but did you forget that he did not play at all last season? Didn't play one regular season game. He wasn't even dressed. He wasn't even padded in Texans practices last year. He was basically like the Ben Simmons of the Houston Texans last year. He literally was just sitting on the bench, basically being that crybaby, nobody, I don't want to play here anymore, but except Ben Simmons doesn't have 22 lawsuits against him. Basically, that's what it was. And regardless of how old you are, it's one thing that Tom Brady is coming back at 44 years old. He just played 2 months ago. Deshaun Watson hasn't played an NFL game in over a year. So to hand away that kind of money, $46 million a year, second behind Aaron Rodgers, that is an insane amount for, like you said, TC, Cleveland is probably one of the two biggest spots where quarterbacks don't have success, the other one being our favorite team.
A little bit closer to home.
Oh,
yeah.
Very close to home, yeah. He stole the words right out of my mouth.
Yeah, and that's the unfortunate thing is I don't think they have a good enough coaching staff there to be able to be like, oh yeah, we've gotten Deshaun Watson on par now. He's ready to go. I think the main issue is the coaching staff. I think it is the owners. I think it's the whole front office. And that doesn't just change overnight, and it obviously hasn't changed in 20 years. So it's hard for me to think, oh, they got a high caliber quarterback. They're going to be able to change things up. They're going to be able to make a good run. I don't see that happening.
Yeah, well, I 100% agree with that. Well, it's a very tough conference, let alone division. Deshaun Watson's going to have to go up against Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, and now Mitchell Trubisky twice a year. Whether you like it or not, the Steelers are always going to be competitive because Mike Tomlin always puts a great team on the field. So we'll see what happens with that signing. Coming up, MLB free agency is underway. We'll give our best and worst signings of the MLB offseason next. Good shit.
Yo, so sorry to you guys on YouTube. I might not even put this in there because I was messing with the camera so much. And you guys probably can't even see Tyler. We apologize. We have been running horribly. TC over here has dropped the ball. Okay, his phone's not charged. His GoPro's not charged. It's not ready to go today. Okay, it was a busy day for him, but he shouldn't make excuses. He should get better, and that's what we're going to do for you. Next week, we will have better picture both for Twitch and YouTube, I promise. Thank you for bearing with us this week. We just want to be able to get this out to you guys as much as we can. We want to keep it consistent. Quality, we obviously want to keep up there, but sometimes, the best things aren't what you have, so you got to make do with what you got. Shout out to Tyler. I know I told you guys this earlier, but he has to deal with me smelling like dogs and drool and dogs.
Do your sports update too, edit.
I can't. Can I see your phone? I'm recording.
Oh, yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
Also, look at the socks and cuffs.
Yeah, that's what I was going to do.
Here you go. It's on the editing piece of the word.
We got a minute left. So yeah, guys, thanks for bearing with us. We'll be better next week. I got to get back to my stuff over here.
The Illinois Center for Broadcasting is now the Illinois Media School. We've been an institution in the Chicagoland area now for 30 years. Because the broadcasting world is always changing, so are we. Not only are we teaching radio and television production, but now you can learn all aspects of the media industry, like web design. You can even specialize in TV or film, sports broadcasting, and even sales. No matter where you are in the Chicagoland area, we have a campus near you. The Illinois Media School. Be on TV, be on radio, beonair.com.
30 seconds.
Yo, check us out. We are the go-to guys. I'm your boy Space.
I'm your boy MC.
Check us out every Thursday
From 4 to 5 p.m.
We're spitting all facts, all sports, all day.
Yes, sir. Who else you gonna go to in the club? Keeping you up to date with all the latest sports news.
We are.
The go-to guys.
Where else you gonna get all your sports news from?
You know.
SportsTownChicago.com.
Winner Circle. We're here to talk about all things sports. Here with Tyler and TC.
Oh my goodness!
And welcome back into the Winner Circle. Tyler Farringle along with my co-host Tyler Clausen, aka TC. I know it's been a little bit since we've been in here, about 2 weeks, but since the last time we were in here about 2 weeks ago, the MLB season is back. They agreed on a CBA, free agents have been signing, and let's just say things have gotten crazy. I think we already have seen a new deal be broken for the most guaranteed money or the highest annual salary among a singular player, and that may or may not be my favorite MLB signing so far. But me and TC have been so on the MLB for getting a deal done. It finally happened, and now we can finally talk about who's going to be on what team, what each outlook is going to be for each team next season. It's going to be great. Spring training is already underway. Opening day only got pushed back 1 week because of the failed CBA, but the good news is that those original first 2 series, or almost 2 weeks full of series, are going to be made up. They won't be having a shortened season. They won't be having, delayedness or whatnot. It's going to be a full 162 games. They're going to make it up with double headers and whatnot. It's going to be great. And with that being said, let's get the ball rolling here. My favorite free agent signing so far has honestly took place last Friday evening when the Minnesota Twins signed Carlos Correa to a 3-year, I believe it was $105 million contract. And if I'm not mistaken, that money that he is going to be paid over the next 3 years, $105 million, is the new highest annual salary for a player in the MLB. I believe it was Garrett Cole to the Yankees in, I think it was 2020 when that happened, before COVID started. But Carlos Correa going to the Twins is a huge move, in my opinion, for Minnesota. People forget that in 2018 and 2019, Minnesota, at least in 2018, they were a 100-win team. They won the Central. They were a good team. Last year, they took a big step backwards. And now with signing Correa and getting a couple other people, they're right back in the mix for the AL Central. So I think the Sox, they have to kind of be sitting a little restless in their shoes right now, because Carlos Correa is a great player, and I think the Twins are going to love him down in Minnesota.
Yeah, and
I should say up.
Tyler, really quick, our broadcaster has gone down. So if you know somebody who listens in the TuneIn app, doesn't have Twitch, make sure you tell them that we have gone dark on here. We will have our recording on Anchor. We do have this Twitch going, as well as the YouTube video will be going live as well. But for right now, we have lost Sam. We still have the ability to control into our broadcast mics. So we're going to do that just because we are able to keep the Anchor up as well. So we're going to keep chugging along here. I just wanted to throw that out just in case anybody is listening live right now. Again, we can't really check, but we'll get back to that. So Tyler, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Absolutely. So I was just finishing up by saying that my best free agent signing, or my favorite free agent signing, was Carlos Correa to the Minnesota Twins. A lot of people thought he would go back to Houston. That's what some of it looked like, but the Twins landed him in a pretty hefty dollar deal. He's getting paid over $100 million across 3 years, and the Twins have a massive upgrade at that position from Andrelton Simmons, who is now reportedly going to be the new Cubs shortstop, what a bad move for the Northsiders. To now Carlos Correa, who's been a huge force with the Astros the last few years, regardless of what you want to say. I know he's a cheater and all that and whatnot. He's still a great player. And besides the Astros not cheating this past year, he was still a really, really solid player. He's a good fielder and all that. So I think the Twins were way below their expectations this year. They just got a big name hitter that I think is going to be a force for Minnesota to potentially compete for the AL Central crown.
You know, Tyler, I would agree with you that they're definitely making moves right now, but as it stands, they have a plus 700 odds to win the Central. The White Sox currently have a negative 225, so
I'm not surprised.
odds are... No, I'm not either, but I do like your point. Like, despite what the odds say, because we don't know what Carrera is going to do in Minnesota. Is he going to bring the same energy? Because those Astros guys, they have a really interesting bond. I mean, you can always see it on the field. Like, I know a lot of teams have that relationship, but there's just always been something about the way the Astros just are together that it seems like that was a brotherhood almost. It wasn't just a baseball team.
Oh, 100%. And again, going from one spectrum to the other, for the Twins, signing Correa was big. For the Astros, it's a major loss because now they have a hole to fill. A guy who was rumored to be potentially in the mix for the Astros if Correa left was Trevor Story, the Rockies shortstop, but he is heading to the AL, I believe is East, signing with the Boston Red Sox. So that's a major loss for the Astros, who have been one of the best teams in the American League the last few years. But again, Minnesota, I know the White Sox are probably still being the favorites, but it's not going to be a runaway like it was last year. Like, they won 93 games. I think second place won like 75. So it's not going to be a runaway like it was last year. I think the Tigers will absolutely be better because they got some guys, and I think the Twins will absolutely be better too because they made some other good moves. They made a trade with the Yankees that I think the Twins won. So that's my take on best free agent signing. TC, I want to know what you think. Is that going to be what's your best signing of the MLB free agency period so far?
Honestly, it's kind of hard for me to say, but I kind of have to go with the former Cubs player, Chris Bryant, going to the Rockies. That's a pretty good move. I don't know why. I've just always liked Colorado. I don't know if it's their colors, if it's the fact that it's Colorado and I love the Rockies, but I've always just appreciated that team. You know what it really was? It was that shortstop they had a few years back. I forget his name, but I was a big fan of his. He was really good. He was really fun.
It's not Trevor Story, right?
No. Yeah, this is like a decade ago or so. So
I think I know who you're talking. I can't think of his name. Like, I feel like I know who you're talking about, but of course I can't figure out who exactly it is.
Yeah,
I gotta look it up.
It's always on the tip of my tongue. I'll probably think of it by
Is
the
it
end of it.
Tulowitzki?
Yes,
Troy
that's who it is.
Tulowitzki. That's
Yes,
right. Really long
that's what it
last
is.
name.
Yep, but I always liked him as a player, so I kind of like the Rockies because of that. And then, I've just always rooted for them a little bit since. So it's good to see them pick up someone so close to home. And it's kind of nice to be able to cheer for a guy that I wasn't able to cheer for a little bit. So it's nice.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is Chris Bryant is a Las Vegas, Nevada native, or at least Nevada native, so it's not too far from home and for Chris Bryant. But also, you got to take into effect that the Rockies do play in the high altitude. So his big swing is going to have a lot of home runs for that team. It may be a little bit of a boost to try and make a playoff push in the NL. I got to go with this. I know I was talking a little bit about the Twins losing Andrelton Simmons and gaining Carlos Correa. My worst free agent signing is Andrelton Simmons to the Cubs. I touched on it earlier, but I, as a Cubs fan, was so hyped up about the potential of getting Correa. Yes, I did have my hopes up. I really wanted Bryant or Rizzo to come back, and I was like, oh, the Cubs got a signing, and I was like, Andrelton Simmons? 1 year, $4 million? What? And I kid you not when they were saying on the radio that he was literally one of the bottom 3 worst offensive players in the entire MLB last year. Enough said. This guy's been on like five or 10 teams. He's a good defender, but you need to be a good hitter in this day and age in the MLB. That's the honest thing about it. So, enough said. I got my hopes up, and Andrelton Simmons is the shortstop.
Yes.
What a loss.
But speaking of production and on offense, Freddie Freeman is probably my least favorite offseason move.
Wait. Least favorite?
Least favorite. You know why? It's the Dodgers. I mean, it's literally like, okay, all the big name guys go here to make some money, retire, somewhere warm or whatever. But it's just like, come on, there's so many other great places that could use ball players just like him. And I know, yeah, they're not all contenders, but there's definitely others besides just the LA Angels, the Dodgers, or the Yankees. There's other teams. I promise you, maybe you don't know, but this is my message to all the free agents out there. All those teams that you could play for any of them, not just the Dodgers or Angels. That's my note to MLB.
Or the Yankees. Basically big market teams. Like you're saying, it was cool to see Chris Bryant go to Colorado because it's not like the biggest market. It's like a middle of the road team. Like the Dodgers have the highest payroll this year. But I said this right after the Dodgers signed Freddie Freeman. He's on a 6-year deal, I think. 6 years, making about $27 million a year. If they don't win at least 3 of the next 6 World Series, it's a failure of a signing. 3 of the next 6. That's how good this team is. And by adding one of the best players in the league, a guy who was an Atlanta Braves legend, I totally agree with you. I did not want to see Freddie Freeman leave Atlanta, but the minute the Braves traded for Matt Olson from the Oakland Athletics, and then signed him to a big contract extension, everybody knew Freddie Freeman was gone. Everybody. And I hear you 100% by saying, oh, why can't you sign with like the Orioles or something? Because, it's like they're the lowest paid team this year. But when you're offered that kind of money from a team who has got a history of winning, and the Dodgers did have kind of a hole at first base, it's hard to argue with that because Max Muncy, the first baseman, was openly saying, hey man, I can play second base. I actually grew up playing second base, so come on down to LA and play. I can't necessarily blame him for there, but again, it's the Dodgers, and it's like, I don't want to see them win either. But I seriously think if they don't win 3 of the next 6, it's a fail. They're such a stacked team.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And speaking of Colorado, I know it's been a little bit since you said that, but shout out to our Colorado sister station / location at IMS. How are you guys doing? Yeah, Denver specifically. Good to shout you guys out. Hope you're on our stream. But
Absolutely.
Another free agency that I'm kind of like questionable about is the Chris Taylor re-signing. I mean, I think it's okay, but I mean, he's 31. It's a 4-year deal.
Chris Taylor to the Dodgers?
Yeah.
He's 31?
Yeah.
I genuinely did not know that. And it's 4 years?
Yep.
Holy cow. That's
so it's
way more than I thought.
Yeah, exactly. You think, give him a good little payout for like a 1-2 year deal or something, but 4 years, I just don't like it when a player's over a certain age that you try to invest too much in him, because I get it, you're trying to persuade maybe a bigger name guy to come in and play for your organization, but at the same time, it kind of diminishes what you can do elsewhere. And now it gives you a bigger penalty if this doesn't pay out,
And Chris Taylor is a guy for the Dodgers who's literally played everywhere. Like, he's played in the outfield, he's played second base, he's played shortstop, he's played everywhere. And now with Freddie Freeman coming to town, there's a little bit of a stopgap, I guess, if you can say, of where he can play. I also will like to add in, I forgot that this happened, but Corey Seager did leave for the Rangers. That he was I think he played shortstop or second base.
Shortstop.
Okay, Trey Turner is the Dodgers shortstop, so I guess it's not as big of like a conflict as I thought. But still, I didn't realize Chris Taylor was 31 years old and they signed him to like a 4-year deal. That's really confusing me. But anyway, the Dodgers are probably going to be the team to beat next year. They're not going to have any competition with the Giants in that 100-game, slugfest of who's going to go back-to-back. Dodgers are probably going to run away with that division. Padres are good, but Fernando Tatis is out a couple months with that motorcycle injury. So we'll see what happens. MLB has been amazing so far. I can't wait for the season to start. April 7th. Mark your calendars. It's opening day. It's going to be amazing. And coming up, guys, the Bulls are still struggling. Me and TC are going to break down what's been going on and what they could potentially be doing better when we come back next.
I'm TC with your Sportstown Chicago update. Cubs are currently in action today against the Athletics in Mesa, Arizona for spring training. The Cubs currently trail 3-2 in the top of the 6th inning. The Southsiders are also in action for spring training today as they take on the Rangers. Sox trail 8-5 in the top of the 6th. Earlier today for the Sox, they could not agree to a deal with starting pitcher Lucas Giolito, who will be headed to arbitration. Giolito described going to arbitration with the White Sox as, quote, very frustrating, unfortunate, and disheartening. He also mentioned that it came down to about $50,000 difference, which he called very upsetting. The Bears on Wednesday announced their signing of offensive lineman Dakota Dozier. The 30-year-old has appeared in 76 games with 27 starts across 7 seasons. He's spent time with the Jets and Vikings in his career. Dozier joins Lucas Patrick as the offensive lineman signed by the Bears this offseason, a key area that has been heavily called to be looked at and potentially overhauled by new GM Ryan Poles. A new network with familiar voices has hit the gridiron for Thursday Night Football this season. Amazon Prime Video has signed on the main broadcast company for Thursday Night Football, which will become the first company to stream all regular season games on their network. They labeled longtime announcer Al Michaels as the play-by-play announcer and veteran ESPN analyst Kirk Herberstein to join alongside him. The 78-year-old Michaels has spent the last 16 years on NBC doing Sunday Night Football, and Herberstein has been ESPN's leading football analyst since 1996. This has been your Sportstown Chicago update. I'm TC.
No, it's all good. It's actually Herb Street.
Herb Street.
I should have just put HERBSTREET.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Dude, I kind of knew that when I was reading it, but I was like, well, after I said it, but then I didn't remember it when I said it again.
I should have said.
Because I was like, this name looks familiar. Where do I know this?
I should have just put 8.
Yeah, if it's ever something that it's like a 2-year-old can't read it, or like a first grader couldn't read the word, put it in a way that a first grader could read the word. Always.
That's my fault.
No, you're good. I didn't have time.
Have my fault?
Yeah, I didn't have enough time to read through the whole thing.
No, I know. Mine were a little short. That's the thing. Like, I didn't want to put the same Bulls and Blackhawks in stories at once, so I tried to make the last one a little longer to make it up, but it was still a little short.
Well, you could just put you could always put Bulls and Blackhawks and Sox and Cubs and all that, but like, you know, maybe your first one you should have talked about how the Sox had those issues going on in the beginning, blah 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 with Giolito, and then said, oh, the game's at 3:05, and then the next one could have been like, it's currently and then the next one could have just been the score update, really. And then you could have gone more into the Blackhawks stuff, if there's Blackhawks stuff, or whatever. Yeah. And then if it's ever the same thing, like if it's like, oh, the Blackhawks sex scandal or whatever it was, then, breaking news about it, and then there's always updates about that news break later in the day. Save that later news break for that. Unless it's really early, like it's 7 o'clock when you find that out, and then it's like 12 o'clock when the news re-hits. So then just put that all in your first one and leave it at that. Because the second one, we need to figure out how to do this better. I think it's really on me. I should just read the news on here, to be honest.
We coming back to...
Yep.
And welcome back into the winner's circle. Tyler Farrago along with Tyler Clausen, aka TC. The rain has kind of eased up a little bit now. The sun is starting to peek out. It's a good sign here at IMS. You know what's not a good sign, though, is the fact that the Chicago Bulls are still not winning enough basketball games. Yes, they won Monday night against, I forgot who they played.
The Raptors?
The Raptors, thank you for mentioning that. They officially clinched a season of finishing over 500, but a terrible blowout loss yesterday. I'm not saying terrible because it's like, oh, they should win that game, but they got outscored in every single quarter against the Milwaukee Bucks, the defending NBA champions, and lost by a score of 126-98. It was ugly. Me and TC have been talking about it for about a few weeks now that the Bulls were starting to slide, but I feel like every week it's not getting better, it's getting worse. And everything that we were mentioning about a month or two ago with injuries, Alex Caruso is back on the court. Something that we definitely didn't think we'd be able to see is now happening. Patrick Williams made his return, I believe it was on Monday. Very great to see the second-year man out of Florida State back on the floor. Unfortunately, though, I don't know if Lonzo Ball's coming back because there was a report that came out yesterday that said he's going to give up running for about 10 days to focus on strengthening his knee, and that sounds like he is nowhere near what they anticipated for his recovery process. It's been about 2 months now. I think it's been about 8 weeks. That's longer than the 4 to 6 week period they were initially saying. But meanwhile, with all this happening, the Bulls are still dropping games. It's not looking good. And with the loss yesterday against Milwaukee, the Bulls are 0-16 against the top 3 seeds in the Eastern Conference. The Miami Heat, the Milwaukee Bucks, and the Philadelphia Sixers. TC, it is ugly right now for the Bulls.
It really is, and it's interesting that it's only the top 3 teams. What about the top 6 teams? What about the top 8 teams? Because even when it comes to the Cavaliers, like sure, they've kind of had the Cavaliers number, but that caliber team, they've had a lot of issues with. You see it with the Celtics. You've seen it with the Nets from time to time. It's not a guaranteed win. And then you see some of these choking hazards almost when they lose to sub 200 teams.
I love the terminology right there. That was great.
Yep.
Choking hazard. That was fantastic. But you are 100% right, though. The Boston Celtics, I want to give them a quick shout out again because I think we mentioned them the last time we were doing the show, but they were 22-23, like barely in a play-in situation. They've gone 22-4. 22-4 in their last 26, and they now sit at 45-28. Incredible comeback. And now they are in the number 4 spot in the Eastern Conference. So right now, it'd be a Bulls-Celtics first round where the Celtics are currently 2.5 games above the Bulls. I don't like the looks of the Bulls traveling to Boston and being the away team for the series. That's not a good look because the Celtics are probably the hottest team in the league right now.
The Celtics were, honestly, it was just a matter of time. You were hoping you'd see a similar thing with Chicago, where the continued gelling would just make this team better. But that's exactly what's happened in Boston. This team started off really rough. A lot of people were saying, see, I told you this wasn't going to go good. And they came out and they proved that wrong. They built this team up. They worked together to get to where they're at now. And like you said, 22-4, since we last really checked them out. So when it comes to that, you just got to think they've really settled in. They're not making the same mistakes like they used to. They're taking better care of the ball. They're making better shots. And that's something that the Bulls need to take a note on. Everyone wants to, turn the ball over less, sure, but what are the passes you are making? Are you studying that film to understand exactly where you went wrong, or are you just hoping that because you're an NBA player that you're going to get better? I don't think that's anybody on our Chicago Bulls. I think the Chicago Bulls, they have a bunch of winners out there and they want to go out winning. But I'm just sitting here scratching my head trying to think about how we could be in this situation. But again, back to what I said though, better shots I think is really Chicago's issue. Because I mentioned this a little bit before, I think it was last week, so you guys on YouTube didn't hear about this, but I brought up that it seems that Chicago wants to always play at a 10. It needs to be 10 intensity, 10 speed. It's always fast. And while that could wear out teams that, you're able to steamroll, if you go up against a brick wall, you're going to get flattened out yourself. Kind of, Willie style. But when it comes to the Bulls, they just really need to settle down, be like, yeah, I could drain this shot with 2 seconds left on the shot clock. Not because I have to, but because I'm good enough to. So instead of thinking of scoring in 2 seconds, or instead of thinking scoring in 2 seconds is doing it in the first 2 seconds, do it in the back 2 seconds because they have opportunities to go away with a stretch, but then they'll take 6 bad shots. They won't score a field goal for 2-3 minutes, and then it puts the other team right back in it every single time. And maybe that's just when I'm watching. Maybe they know. They got their what do you call those boxes that people used to monitor TV with?
Oh, I don't even know.
Nielsen families?
I guess.
The Nelsons, whatever those family boxes are, that's basically what they're doing. They're just, TC's on, I gotta just start doing exactly what he complains about. Because it seems like every time I don't watch them play, they also win. So I'm gonna go back to that, guys, not watching Chicago teams play.
Well, I feel that it's so funny that you say that because I feel like it's the same way with me and the Bears and the refs. It's like, the Bears know I'm watching, the refs know I'm watching. Let's throw a ridiculous flag because Tyler Farringill's sitting in Roselle, Illinois, watching on his couch. It's just cringy stuff like that. I want to get back to Boston, though, really quickly before we jump back to the Bulls. I was really questioning the Brad Stevens move to the front office. I didn't think it was a great move, and obviously through the first half of the season, it was not looking good, but they have turned it around. A great thing to see for Celtic fans. But for the Bulls, realistically speaking, again, generally speaking, I don't think many people had them as a for sure lock to make the official bracket, which is the 6 teams who clinched. I think most people who said if they were between 7 through 10, that'd be a success. They're already pretty much aiming for a more than successful regular season right now. But again, I brought up earlier with the fact that we've been so accustomed to this team being a force in the Eastern Conference, we almost expect it to be like, okay, keep yourselves in that situation where you're going to get a top 2 seed. So we'll see if the Bulls can rebound from that. Coming up, guys, March Madness is in full swing. The Sweet 16 starts tomorrow. Find out which teams are going to be feeling sour after Thursday and Friday's games. Sweet and sour. I had to. It was so corny, but I had to.
It's alright. I did get control of Sam back, but I didn't even bother to restream it.
It's not streaming though?
No.
I meant to ask you, what the fuck happened with Sam? God damn it.
It's probably because they're going to be doing it.
It's a 24-hour urban oasis. Come now, come later. Hey, come now in later. We never close at White Palace Grill, located 1159 South Canal Street in Chicago. Visit us at whitepalace.com or order with Uber.
That's fucking bullshit, man.
So, how about, since we saw those guys were able to come in and it worked until 5:23, how about we come in with the expectation? Well, why don't we just ask them to move our time to 4? Or is that too close for you?
It doesn't matter.
Because you do get here at like 2:45.
Yeah, I'll just ask to leave earlier then.
No, I mean we could.
Well, it's only because I don't know. Why is this shit not working now? When the game doesn't start till 7.
It's probably a process. That's why. Because think about it. You know how we just got to go press record. Maybe this is the equivalent of us pressing record so that it's just going. And, now we're able to transition into something else.
Go to Lux Barbershop for the finest barbers, stylists, breeders, and massage therapists in the southern suburbs.
Alright, so I'm talking about college basketball.
Facebook, Instagram, and Lux
Oh,
Barbershop.
God, I don't know anything about that.
That's alright, I'll carry.
No, it's okay. I got this.
Are you sure?
Hi, this is Joe
Yeah.
Bird and Steven Tyler of Aerosmith for Red. It's okay to
We got 30 seconds.
Just don't get in there too
Shout out to you guys. If you're on Twitch, make sure you go to our Instagram, _winnercircle_22. You can follow us. You'll stay up to date on everything we're doing. In fact, that's probably how you got here today. But if you're just logging on from Twitch, shout out to you for searching out some sports talk and coming to us here at the Winner Circle. We really appreciate it, and we're glad that you're here. Again, _winnercircle_22 on Instagram. I don't know what I'm doing. I still got 20 seconds with you guys. So let me just say, this is Tyler Farringill. He is the voice of the Winner Circle. And now I gotta go. We're doing the show.
Hey everyone, welcome back into the Winner Circle. Our final segment here is going to be something that I think everybody in the USA has tuned into the last week or so. It's March Madness. I know not everyone watches the full college basketball season for the first 3 or 4 months. I know I don't either. But once February and March rolls around, I am all in. I'm invested. I finish my bracket pretty much 10 minutes after it comes out on CBS for the selection show. But what a crazy weekend of first and second round games for this tournament. It is so cool to see them in different locations for regional games with fans back in the stands and basically normal basketball. This is what the NCAA tournament is all about. And yes, I'm talking about this too, but I'm also talking about some Cinderella stories that we've seen through this tournament so far. I mean, there are 4 double-digit seeds looking for a spot in the Elite Eight and potentially the Final Four. And for the second year in a row, a 15 seed is among one of those teams. Before we get into some of these matchups, TC, what has been your biggest thoughts on the NCAA tournament so far?
When it came to Iowa State, we were talking about how it would be awesome based off of what they were doing in their local tournament, in their conference tournament, what they would be able to do at March Madness. So with them here now in the Sweet 16, despite being an 11th seed, I think that is the coolest thing ever. Like, imagine nobody's even expecting you to make it past the first round. You're just basically there for show to give the other team a chance to play a game, and you show up and you just stomp them into the ground and you walk off like dusting yourself off all nice.
To be fair, I did have Iowa State beating LSU in the first round as an 11-6, but I will say I was pretty salty when they knocked off Wisconsin because I did have Wisconsin in the Final Four. Unfortunate. 2 of my 4 Final Four teams are still up, though. I know this is going to be unpopular and it might not happen, but I have Arkansas beating Gonzaga in the Sweet 16, and then I have them going on to the Final Four. And also my national championship pick, Villanova, the Wildcats, are still alive. Those are the 2 I got right. Baylor, I don't think anybody saw losing in the second round. They're out, and then I just mentioned the Wisconsin Badgers as well. With that being said, though, some of these games earlier, I want to mention Iowa State like you were mentioning earlier. TC last year, they were 2-22. They were terrible. A terrible team. TJ Otzelberger, the new head coach, has done a tremendous job in turning around that team in 1 season and now riding a huge wave of momentum into the Sweet 16. They're tied for the second lowest seed left with the Michigan Wolverines, who are also a pretty sweet story. No pun intended, Sweet 16. And also St. Peter's. The ride continues for the Peacocks. Located in the Eastern region. They knocked out Kentucky, and they knocked out Murray State as well. These matchups are going to be so interesting to see. With that being said, though, I got to say, if there's one game that I'm looking for upset potential, I definitely think it's going to come in that upper right-hand region. I'm so bad with which teams are which region. I'm going to go with, in the upper right-hand region, I really do think that Houston has a chance to beat Arizona. They look dominant against Illinois. Illinois kind of shouldn't even have made it past the first round against Chattanooga. And Arizona almost didn't make it past TCU. Houston looks ready. They look disciplined. Kelvin Sampson has done an incredible job with that school in the American Athletic Conference, not a Power 5 conference. He took them to the Final Four last year, and I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if they make it one step closer this year by knocking off, by what most people say is they're the second best team in the conference, in the entire nation, but some people say they might be the best team overall in Arizona. So if I had to put my money on an upset, I would most likely say Houston gets it done over Arizona.
Yeah, I think that's the most likely, but I think the biggest one we're looking for is St. Peter's over Purdue.
It's not going to happen.
It is going to happen.
No,
How
it's not.
dare you say that? St. Peter's, do not listen to this guy. He does not know what he's talking about. I am all about the underdog Cinderella story, whatever you want to call it. That's what I'm all about. And St. Peter's is going to beat Purdue. It's also why I'm heartbroken over freaking Iowa State over here, having to play another double-digit team in the Sweet 16. You know, I understand why, but why couldn't they have to play a lower seed just so they both can continue on into the Elite Eight?
Well, the previous 2 15 seeds have not made it to the Elite Eight. I'll give them that. So I think they're going to fall in that trap. But I also want to say, I'm not rolling with St. Peter's just because they were a 15 seed. I got 2 cousins that go to Purdue, and I know probably one of them is listening right now. To shout out to you, If you're listening, you know who you are. But other than that, from a basketball standpoint, I think Purdue has shown tremendous size and strength up near the basket. Like, it's not just Jaden Ivey, who has been such a huge factor like he has for that team all year. It's been Zach Edey. Not a great free throw shooter, but the dude is 7'4". How could you guard that monster in the paint? And then against Texas, Travion Williams was literally unstoppable. Like, Jaden Ivey is Purdue's best player. He didn't have, I don't think, a single point in the entire first half. I might be wrong with that, but there was a long stretch where Texas didn't make a field goal for 8 minutes, and Jaden Ivey didn't have a single point. It was the Travion Williams show. Like, this is probably the third best player in the Boilermakers, and he was making it rain on the Longhorns. Horns down is what they say down over there and everywhere else, but Purdue looks great. I don't think, unfortunately, St. Peter's is going to get the job done. What my biggest question is Purdue, are they going to play North Carolina or UCLA? Because North Carolina had the upset of the season so far in March, or maybe not the season, but one of the biggest upsets we've seen is them knocking off Baylor, the reigning national champions. And now they're going to play a team who made it to the Final Four last year as an 11 seed, UCLA. They're a 4 seed this year. This is pretty much the same team we saw make the Final Four last year. Johnny Juzang, Jules Bernard, Jaime Jaquez, even though he went down with an ankle injury against St. Mary's, Cody Riley. That whole core group is back. Mick Cronin is always fired up. He's going to be hot and heavy trying to lead this team to another appearance. So that region is wide open. The top 2 seeds are out. That region is majorly up for grabs. Other than that, you got TC, we're talking about it earlier, 4 double-digit seeds vying for an Elite 8 spot. At least one of them is going to happen when Iowa State takes on Miami, Florida. I got to say, though, I feel like they're 2 polar opposite teams. Miami, Florida, like you said, likes to play fast and upbeat and physical. Iowa State is a very slow, very easy-paced team. They didn't crack 60 in both of their wins the first 2 weeks. With that being said, I think that the slow pace of play is going to prevail. I think the younger coach is going to outduel the veteran. TJ Otzelberger is going to outduel Jim Larinaga, who's one of the oldest coaches in college basketball. I got the Cyclones moving on against either Providence or Kansas. Maybe Providence can pull that upset. And hey, you're around Chicago, those 2 games, Kansas, Providence, Iowa State, and Miami, Florida, they're going to be in Chicago on Friday. So how about that? That's cool, but I think Iowa State's going to be the double-digit seed that makes it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, just the way they're playing it. Again, it's always what I like to tell you, Tyler, is it's all about the fire. Is it burning bright right now, or is it slowly dwindling out? For Iowa State, you just felt that fire growing and growing and growing all throughout the March Madness and their conference tournament as well. So I have really high expectations for Iowa State, and I hear you. You know, they only scored 60-ish points a game,
and then 59 against LSU, and then I think they scored 53 against Wisconsin. So this is a very good defensive team.
Exactly, and that's the fact of the matter is it goes back to, is that fast-paced team going to make good shots, or are they going to get carried away and be, oh, we're up 10, I can go in and, just do my thing because we're good, or are you going to have to slow it down, wait for that good look, and then take that shot?
Yeah, and let's just mention the other games or other regions that we haven't talked about yet for a brief second. Michigan and Villanova. There was a lot of rumblings about Michigan potentially not even making the tournament. They're one of 2 Big Ten teams standing against the Villanova Wildcats. It's going to be a rematch of the 2018 National Championship when Villanova pretty much crushed Michigan. Then you got that upper left-hand region, Gonzaga and Arkansas. This one is the only non-upset bracket. You got the top 4 seeds all in the Sweet 16. Arkansas against Gonzaga and Texas Tech against Duke. Could this be Coach K's final game coaching college basketball? I'm kind of sour about that one because I had them losing to Michigan State. Texas Tech barely squeaked by Notre Dame, and I think Texas Tech is going to pull that one out against the Blue Devils. But we'll see what happens. The Sweet 16 and this second week are always so unpredictable. Yes, there were teams riding a momentum wave from the last 2 games, but that was a whole week later. It's so different taking that whole week off compared to, just constant 1 day off and you play. And this is a whole week off, whole new slate of games. Everybody gets a clean reset, and we'll see what happens and who can advance to the Final Four. That's going to be our show for today, guys. Thank you so much for listening once again. TC has hit the nail on the head right there with all of our ways to listen. We got Twitch, we got YouTube. Follow our Instagram at the Winner Circle 22. We're going to be posting updates throughout there as well. And I thank you guys all for listening once again. It's great to be back in here with TC covering all the big sports news that's been going on lately.
Yeah, Tyler, you even forgot about one. That's how many ways you could reach us. You could also reach us on Anchor. We will post some podcasts on there. There's not always a ton of them, but if we ever go dark like this, we are going to upload them and record them. So go check us out on Anchor as well if you prefer just straight podcasts, no video. But
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much again for listening. We'll see you next Wednesday. We'll know who will be in the Final Four. Thank you guys. Have a great evening.
This is your home for sports. This is the best fans in the world. No better team. SportsTownChicago.com. Are you ready for this? Valley View Automotive has all of the hottest SUVs you've been looking for. Enjoy a test drive and the opportunity to drive one of these powerful vehicles off the lot for half the price. Yes, half the price. Now's the time to get yourself to Valley View by car, on foot, or even by air to take advantage of this outrageous sale. You better get here quickly, because this promotion is only going on for 24 hours. And the automobiles are leaving the lot faster than you can say four-wheel drive.
well, guys, that about does it for us. Tyler, I almost forgot they were here. I mean, shoot. You guys heard our spiel. I mean, you're on Twitch or YouTube right now, so you can find us there. Maybe if you're on YouTube, you wanted to know Twitch. Maybe if you're on Twitch, you wanted to know YouTube. Or maybe if you're on one of these, you wanted to know that there was the Anchor. And, hey, there is the Anchor. Or if you're really interested, this is the highest level quality of audio that we have. Go to the TuneIn app or Anchor and search for SportsTownChicago.com in the TuneIn app, or just search it on your browser. Go in there, click listen, and you will hear me and Tyler 5 p.m. Wednesdays here on SportsTownChicago.com, or your YouTube at TMT, or Twitch at _winnercircle_22, or Anchor at the same thing. I believe it's TMT 0605 or 0506. Those are our cohorts. He was we were May, you were June, right?
Yes, I was June 1st.
So-
You guys were May 1st.
Yeah, so that's where those numbers come from. But check us out on Anchor as well. And, we're at our final seconds here. So, Tyler, you got any thoughts before we go?
No, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Again, sorry that the main method of listening to us.
You can get out behind that microphone and say hi. Let those people see your face.
What's up? I'm repping the Andrew Chafin shirt, show my displeasure with the Cubs management from last year. But thank you guys again for for listening. Sorry the main broadcasting crashed, but it's good that we have some backup options for other people who don't want to go on the website and don't want to use the main method. Appreciate you guys for listening. And again, hit us up with those questions on Instagram, because we will for sure look at them, and I think they would make for some good back and forth debates between me and TC, friendly debates. And hit us up anytime you feel necessary.
And now that we're live, we will be able to respond more in person. I know today we weren't necessarily able to do that live speed because of the situation with the charging and all that, so I can't actually see my screen right now. So we will have that up next week, though, so that we're able to see your messages, respond to them as well, and be able to create some more dialogue between us and you guys. So thank you for tuning in. We will definitely see you next week. Stay classy till then.
Absolutely.